Hi, my name's Alex Gascoine. I'm a violinist in the BBC Symphony Orchestra, and this is the first of our series of chats with members of the orchestra called Ask Any Question. And my first guest today is our wonderful leader, Laura Samuel. Hi, Laura.
Hi, Alex. How are you?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. Are you keeping well? It's so nice to see you.
It's lovely to see you too. How are you surviving under lockdown?
Good. I mean, I think it's such a complete change for us all, isn't it? We're all finding our way and ups and downs and things. I'm missing the orchestra so much and playing together, making music together. So lovely to see you today.
So the first question is from Aidan Mazur, and he says, I'm a violinist in Aberdeen and always love watching and hearing you play. So how did you develop your technique and your style of playing? Was it all from you, or was it from your teacher, or a combination of the two?
Good question. Hi, Aidan. Well, I think as with all of us, we're so influenced by our teachers along the way at different stages of our development, and then other musicians you encounter, what sort of repertoire you play, different groups you're involved in. They all kind of feed into this idea of shaping you as a musician. So I had a phenomenally good teacher at college who was absolutely wonderful. It's at Rashkovsky, he was called, and he was just so supportive and absolutely brilliant. So I suppose fundamentally from a violinistic point of view, he was really my main influence. But then I've had wonderful chamber music teachers over the years, and working with great soloists and conductors in the orchestra is always a great feeder for our own musicality.
So Claire Weiss asks, I'd like to ask Laura, please, how she focuses her mind in the hours and minutes before a major performance.
That's a great question, actually. I think we're so used to evening performances generally. Occasionally we play in the afternoon or lunchtime concerts, or even, God forbid, morning concerts, which are slightly terrifying because you sort of have to shift everything in your day so much earlier. I personally like to rehearse a bit, but not too much. Everyone's got different ideas about that. Some people like to play lots of things through, and some people want to really save themselves. I think a short focused rehearsal is quite good for me. And then a good break where I'm sort of on my own, but I can eat something and maybe go for a little walk. So we regularly would have an hour and a half off between our rehearsal and a concert, and that's time for me to go get some fresh air and yeah, just be calm. I think save the energy for when you need it on stage.
Yes, no, I agree. I sometimes a nap works for me, I have to say. I know some people that love a curry before a concert. I never know how they do that. I'm constantly amazed at people who could have a big meal before a concert. I think I'd be asleep by 20 to 8. I think.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it's so personal, that though, isn't it? That's such a personal thing. You know, I couldn't possibly do a concert on an empty stomach. My mind would be all over the place. And then some people don't like to eat at all. So
yes,
yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So Glenn Mowat asks, I'd like to ask Laura what's her favourite orchestral repertoire or even solo repertoire she's played, and why? What's your favourite repertoire, Laura?
Wow, that's like saying what's your favourite composer, and that's virtually impossible. I think it actually really changes depending on what I'm playing at the time. So I was in a string quartet for many years, 16 years before I joined the BBC Scottish. So I really relish the big scale things, I think, at the moment. That's still got a real novelty factor for me. You know, I mean, I'll never forget my first week on trial with the orchestra and hearing the brass play, and I just thought, my God, you know, hadn't heard that up close since I was at college. So, you know, it's really the big scale things, I think, that get me excited. But then also my most memorable performances, things like Haydn Creation that we did with Thomas Dausgaard in City Halls a few years ago, which is of course smaller, more delicate. I love to, I mean, I'd be happy to play Schubert all day long, Beethoven. Very hard to pick, really. But I think that the fantastic thing about being a big orchestra, but also playing smaller things, is you get the most phenomenal variety.
Yeah, it's especially in a BBC orchestra, because we just simply play everything, don't we? Exactly. I said to someone, we play everything from about 1550 to stuff written this morning.
Yeah.
You know, because you played a piece recently, didn't you, for Radio 3? You did one of these, what was it called, a composer postcard or something, wasn't it?
Exactly, there are 12 miniatures written by composers, and mine was by Naomi Pinnock, who'd written a piece actually for the Orchestra of Tectonics last year. Yeah, so that was also really interesting, because when you get something new, you have no idea what's coming. So that arrived, and I really enjoyed getting to grips with that. I had to tune my violin very differently. Two of the strings were... Yeah, so it was fun. It's always great to have a new challenge.
No, very good, very good. Okay, so Lynn Gallagher, I'd like to ask Laura if she plays any other instrument, and what has she been playing recently under lockdown?
Oh, well, I did study piano a bit at college, but I'm appallingly bad. I mean, I just couldn't even get two hands together. I did manage to have a whole year of piano lessons at college, my first year, as a second study, and didn't touch the piano once, because there's so many brilliant piano teachers, of course, at these institutions. I just was mortified about the fact that I'd have to play the piano in front of him. So I managed to talk my way through a whole year's lessons, and then occasionally I get my violin out and we play some sonatas together. But so yeah, piano, but really badly. I wish I could. I'd love to be able to play piano or sing or all sorts of things. Yeah. Playing in lockdown, I've been, as I said earlier, just exploring things that I haven't normally got the chance to do, and also just relishing all these little bits that we're being sent and given to record and play.
Yeah, very good. I remember when I first went to Guildhall and I walked in, because I did second study piano as well for 1 year. That's all my piano teacher could stand. And I remember walking in with my violin case, and he said, "Oh," he said, "you're a second study violinist." And I said, "No, I'm a second study pianist." And he was not happy. He didn't want to teach a second study pianist, and we only lasted a year, I'm afraid.
I mean, it really, I think there's something quite extraordinary about knowing how you think it should sound, because you're very developed in another area of music, or what very developed, whatever, and then just not actually being able to do it at all. And I'd be trying to play a melody, and then one note would come thumping out, and I had no idea why that was happening. And yeah, it was just very, very stressful all round. But so I love listening to the piano, but certainly not me playing it.
Okay, so Matt says, I'd like to ask Laura what her most memorable performance was and what made it so.
Oh, wow, that's a great question, Matt. With the orchestra, I think probably my most memorable performance was playing Heldenleben at the proms. I mean, the proms are always so exciting because of the atmosphere and the fact that the audience is so close, and you're sort of surrounded by this amazing sense of occasion. And I think because it's got such a big violin part, big violin solo, it was a kind of terrifying mix of being, exhilarated, but really, incredibly...
it's a violin concerto in a symphony, isn't it? Sort of. It
is, almost. I suppose, for me, in the first horn, yeah. I mean, it's just such fun to play, and I think that probably that's my most memorable performance of the orchestra. Yeah.
No, very good, very good. Now, I love this question, because I'm going to preface this by saying you didn't appoint me, because I was in the orchestra before you were. So this question is from Scott Bryant, and he says, what are the key things you would look for in a successful violinist's audition?
Oh, I love it. Oh my God. I don't feel in any way qualified to answer that question, that's for sure. I mean, auditions are so bizarre, aren't they? They're the most unnatural thing, really.
I just think they're just awful.
I mean, they're so stressful to do. They're so stressful to be a part of, listening to, the whole thing. Anyway, I just want to hear someone's personality when they play. That's, for me, the most important thing. Of course, it's a given that you would want people to be prepared and give it their best, but we all know that that's just not always the reality. Any factor can come into it, and just to have to turn it on immediately in an unknown situation. I mean, you walk into a room, you might never have met anyone there in the room. You have to then just play cold. You might have been hanging around outside. I think we just all need to be kinder to each other in auditions. So from a listening point of view, I would just love to hear someone's personality, hear what they've got to say about the music, what makes them love it, and then you've got so much more of an idea of the person behind the player.
So if we just develop this a little bit, So you're not only leader of the orchestra, you're also the leader of the first violins and the leader of the string section. So when people come to audition for the orchestra, you must have a sound in your head that you want the first violins to sound like. So yes, absolutely the personality, but you need somebody that's going to fit in to the 13, 12 people that are already there.
Absolutely, and every orchestra has its own distinct sound, you know, and that sound is made up of all the component parts, and then that sound is changed and manipulated and expanded by whoever is asking for different sounds standing in front of us. So it's always about whether or not you think that sound will blend well with the group, whether you think it'll add something to the group. You know, I mean, the best string sections, I think, sound full of personality. The last thing you want is for someone to in any way feel that they have to fit in. You know, we have to fit in, of course, as part of our job, but it's in an audition situation, I want to hear someone's, you know, their real personality and think, how is that going to galvanise the people around them? How are people going to want to sit next to that person and play with them? And are they going to be up and open and looking at, you know, conductors and having that sort of connection with all of us? So I think everyone looks for very different things in auditions and in building a section. But you know, I've got a great section; they're fantastic, and that's all the parts combined. You know, everyone plays their parts, and they're brilliant.
I have to say, our first violin section, I always think, you know, there's we used to have a colleague years ago who used to say the first violin section was the Spitfire pilots of the Symphony Orchestra. And in that sense, you know, they're the most, they're certainly the most exposed, and getting 14 people to play probably the hardest part in the orchestra, absolutely together. It's a really tricky job, isn't it? And you're absolutely, our first violin section's amazing.
And they're fiendishly difficult parts often, you know, individually to play, and that's before you even think about how they fit into the bigger picture. And I think what's interesting in my group is, and I see it when I go and guest with other orchestras, is that quite often people fall into different roles. So, you know, you can feel that we're all having a particularly stressful time because a passage is tricky. And then there's always a joker of the section who makes a brilliant comment that somehow relaxes everyone. Or, you know, if I'm often particularly uptight, for example, so someone who's a bit calmer around me might relax me down and things. So we all sort of fall into different roles depending on what's required based on how it's all going, really. It's
very much a team effort, isn't it?
Absolutely, in every way, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Laura, it's such a pleasure to chat to you. You and I have been friends for years now, and I love talking to you all the time, but it's a particular privilege to be able to do our first Ask Any Question together. And you're going to play for us now, aren't you? So
I am. I'm going to play a little bit of Bach, the last movement of the E major partita, which is so bright and sunny and optimistic. I've been finding myself playing quite a lot of major key things to try and, you know, lift the spirit. So I hope it will for everyone. And thank you, Alex. I've really enjoyed chatting to you.
It's a lovely to chat to you, Laura. And we'll hear you play now. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.